Swatting has been the new domestic terrorism since J6. Exercise your freedoms, and you have to worry about feds or local police showing up at your door, guns drawn. We'll be covering that, plus the JFK file flop, or are there revelations to piece together? The news you need to know, but with solutions and hope. This is Get Free with Christy Lee. The former administration labeled the right as domestic terrorists, but it's never been more clear that it's always been the left that want to lead with fear. Attacks on Tesla are the new fiery, but mostly peaceful protests. For years, we've had to hear that LGBTQ, they just want to live. That's all they want, and they have to live in terror. They don't want to have to fear for their lives. So why is it that the common thread of violence against others always seems to be the trans community lashing out? As noted by the Liberty Daily, just look at what the domestic terrorists attacking Teslas have in common. There's Justin Thomas Nelson, who allegedly threw Molotov cocktails at Teslas in Colorado and goes by Lucy Grace Nelson, living with mom and calling itself baby. Erin L. White, who uses her pronouns, was apprehended and charged with felony criminal damage to property and trespass. Adam Matthew Lansky was formerly accused of possessing Molotov cocktails while attempting to destroy Tesla property at a Salem, Oregon car dealership. Social media records show Lansky allegedly went by the alias Allison Tesla on X, with the content featuring trans pornography. The AP, or Associated Propaganda, as it's come to be known, it twists itself in circles to cover for the violence. It says Musk critics have organized dozens of peaceful demonstrations at Tesla dealerships and factories across North America and Europe, while at the same time describing Molotov cocktails thrown, Tesla trucks set on fire, and other vandalism. And make no mistake, the terrorists want more than just cars destroyed. They want any Musk ally, let alone Tesla owner, killed. I'm sure you've seen the doxing of every Tesla owner, complete with an interactive map using a Molotov cocktail as the cursor. From the Daily Mail, the disturbing website called DogeQuest also provides the locations of every Tesla showroom, charging station, and known residents of Department of Government Efficiency employees. So think about that. This visceral reaction to attempts at cutting government waste. It's almost as if they know that waste was the money laundering operation to the Democrat Party. And that's why they're so angry. But, Republicans, they're no better. American Greatness reports that the Lincoln Project's Rick Wilson has been suspended from X for 1 month over this Kill Tesla post. Wilson's Substack post is titled Kill Tesla, Save the Country. And it features the unsubtle subheading of Elon has a weak spot, attack. For anyone who didn't catch his drift, his post includes an image of a Tesla Cybertruck engulfed in flames. Wilson defended his rant and argued he didn't literally advocate for Antifa violence against Tesla. Never mind his kill and attack message and the Tesla there up in flames. He's upset about his suspension on X. Yet Wilson, he had no problem gleefully tweeting his support of President Trump's unjust permanent ban from Twitter in January of 2021. Wilson wants more of the violence, and I guess more of this disturbing. Yay! That is so disgusting. But being disgusting, violence, destroying cities, looting, those are all old tricks. Now swatting is the grab bag of lefty terrorism. And the list just keeps getting longer. Owen Schroyer, Juanita Broderick, Sean Farish, Chase Geyser, Joe Pags, Cat Turd, Gunther Eagleman, and plenty of names that I apologize for. I hadn't even heard before they're getting swatted as long as they were a conservative voice. Well, swatting victim Nick Sorter had this to say: not a single Democrat in Congress has condemned the terror attacks on Tesla or attempted murder of conservatives via swatting. WTF? Do these people really hate America that much? Yes, Nick, they do. They really, really do. They're mental. So, what can or should be done? We're going to discuss that coming up with OG Swatting Victim Alpha Warrior on X. But first, wherever you're watching, like, comment, and share. Get free. We want others to get free and also support the show by taking advantage of our sponsors. Of course, we're going to pick ones that will benefit you too. And there's never been a better time to invest in the energy sector. I mean, come on, Trump's all in on that. So now would be the time. Watch this. The world's smartest investors aren't buying oil stocks. They're collecting mailbox money from oil royalties instead. I'm talking about passive income that shows up month after month, starting with as little as $25. Visit ChristieOilBoom.com to discover how to tap into monthly royalty checks from America's most productive oil basin. You don't need to be wealthy. You just need a regular brokerage account. That's ChristieOilBoom.com to learn how you could start collecting oil royalty checks every month.
Forget about keto, carnivore, low carb, and intermittent fasting diets. If you want to drop stubborn extra pounds and maintain a healthy weight, you need to rejuvenate your overworked liver. Studies have shown that the rate of an overworked liver has skyrocketed by 131% over the past 30 years. And lots of things have contributed to that, like eating processed junk food, drinking alcohol, and even toxic exposure. That's why it is crucial that you take action now to rejuvenate your liver. And that's exactly what Liver Health Formula can help you do. Join in thousands of others in supporting a thriving liver and healthy weight. You can try Liver Health Formula risk-free, and as a bonus gift, receive a free bottle of omega-3s with your order. Try Liver Health Formula by going to getliverhelp.com/Lindell and claim your free bonus gift. That's getliverhelp.com/Lindell.
So the swatting terrorism continues, despite FBI Director Kash Patel saying it would be looked into, but it doesn't seem like it's being looked into fast enough. Now, Deputy Director Dan Bongino had this to say: communication and transparency are my priorities. We work for you, the American citizen. Our teams are actively working on the Tesla incidents and the swatting incidents, along with our other responsibilities to keep the homeland safe. Thank you. So hopefully they will get on this. I mean, there seems like there's just got to be a better solution or something that they could do quickly to alert authorities, to get them all on the same page about this. But let's talk to somebody that was a SWAT member. And we're going to be talking to Dr. Sherwood, who does so much more. He spent 24 years in the Tulsa, Oklahoma Police Department. And he does so much more than that. Like I said, Oklahoma State and Regional bodybuilding champion. Now he spends his time helping thousands of patients as a naturopathic doctor. So thank you so much for joining us on Get Free here on Lindell TV, Dr. Sherwood. Really interested in the perspective from your point of view as a former SWAT member.
Well, thanks for having me, Christy. I always appreciate you very much. You do great work. But yeah, brings back a blast from the past, so to speak. I'll put that little SWAT hat on again, right? But interestingly enough, people need to know that the term swatting is a little bit of a misnomer, because when you get a call for service as a police officer, someone calls 911, the dispatcher gets it, takes the call, and broadcasts it to the officers in the neighborhood. Proper response, people need to know this, is not for the officers to turn on lights and sirens in a situation like that. Proper response is to not turn on lights and sirens, because you want to try to get there as covertly as possible to investigate what you're walking into, for the safety of those involved and for the safety of the fellow officers involved. You advise accordingly. So there's a lot of reports out there that are sort of conflictive to what I know to be true. Now, do you get your flashlights out and bang on the door? You sure do, and that's important. But please know that the SWAT team is not automatically activated based upon a simple 911 call.
So, what is happening here then exactly? People are calling in a fake hostage situations or things like that. And that what triggers the SWAT team response, or how does that work?
Exactly. So you call and you get these calls for hostage situations, mass shootings, and you show up and assess, and then the assessment's done, calls are made, then you have emergency personnel show up, SWAT team is activated to go out and secure the scene. But what you do is you set up a perimeter. The first thing you do is you have to set up an inner perimeter, which is basically the house, for example, right? And then if it were a real deal, you would set up an outer perimeter, which would be your threat side, depending on the type of weaponry the person's had in there. You might clear out neighborhoods, you might clear out people from adjacent houses and things like that. So there's a lot that goes into it. But what is happening is there are bogus calls being made to create a police response, to create terror on the part of both the police and the person that's being retaliated against. It's both, and this is a terror incident for both. It's not okay for the police officers, Christy. It's not okay for the citizens. It's a crime, false reporting of a crime. So, as much as I appreciate Mr. Patel and Mr. Mangino talking about that, this goes back to as a crime in the local jurisdictions that needs to be investigated thoroughly, followed up on with brisk reality, and thoroughly vetted out and investigated. And these things need to be pushed hard, and we need to probably look at local legislation, Christy, to create laws that would make it even a felony, perhaps, or at least a high-paced misdemeanor to, if you were convicted of a crime like this, because it is a crime to do it. People need to know that.
Yeah, and I appreciate your perspective as a former law enforcement officer that was having to be a part of these SWATs. When I was a reporter working in Toledo, Ohio, back in the day, there was a couple times I was called to cover a SWAT situation, and it was very dangerous, very scary. I remember the police. We were at a standoff situation, and the police screaming and yelling at us when things were starting to turn sour to run and get back. And I remember having to run, and I had a big camera at that time as well. And crouching behind a car, as there were shots fired. And so this is nothing funny or practical joke about this. It's a very serious situation. And so when you bring your perspective in acknowledging that officers are also a victim, it's because, the adrenaline I felt, they're humans too. They feel this adrenaline. They don't know what they're walking into. So they're victims in this as well, which I think does get missed because we are defensive of these innocent victims with guns being shoved in their face in the middle of the night. Obviously we feel for them, but we don't feel recognize that they're being duped as well. But surely there's something in light of the string of swatting accidents, and because it's now being used as domestic terrorism. Logic would say, can't they put out directives across the nation saying here's a list of potential people that would be targeted? Or something to get ahead of this. It just seems so reactionary and so needlessly reactionary.
Yeah, I agree. And I appreciate your affirmation of that point I was making, because officers out there, Christy, are, people don't understand. You go to work every day and think you might die every day. Every call you come up with, it might be your last. And people don't understand that. And I ask for people to please hear my heart with that, because those men and women suffer every day with PTSD that you can't comprehend. And so, before we judge them, we need to sort of try to put ourselves in the responsibilities. As far as, putting out a notice out there, I thought about that actually, in preparation for our time today. But then I thought, these whack jobs, these sick old people would probably take that and try to orchestrate some type of call system, because you can do a lot with AI these days to set up a call system to actually make it worse. I think maybe a opportunity might arise is to notify the local police departments in the jurisdictions in which these influencers that may be targets live, and tell them to be aware of that. Notify the local sheriff's office, counties, cities, and even states, so they can be kind of prepared for that, and then sort of covertly inform the citizenry out there that to be aware of this, and to educate the citizens that if we respond and we do have our guns out, it's because we are scared too, and we really don't know if it's a real call or not a real call. So just be calm and understand that, So I think those are the proper steps, in my opinion, to take.
How do you think it would be received for a proactive, if a very popular conservative host wanted to go to their local police and just say, hey, I've noticed that other people in my line of work are having this happen to them. Um, I just wanted to see if there was a list it could be put on. I feel like I'll be a victim of. How do you think that would be received? Would that be weird, or would that just be a good thing to do you think?
Well, in today's world, I don't think anything's weird, anymore. I've learned my lesson on that. But honestly, if I were there, if I were, and I was a commander of several people, but I would direct the persons that were receiving that complaint to take a report, to make notice of it, to put that report on file, so it would be memorialized and archived forever. And once you memorialize and archive it, you can say that person did report this. And I would not discount it. I would take it very serious in the times and seasons in which we live. And I would also take the time to tell the person, if for me talking to him, now, if you get a response from police officers at your house, and it is a situation where you are a victim of this, please understand how those police officers might respond. And that would be very normal, because they don't know if it was a real call or not. And I think that the person would understand it. If it was a real call, you would want them coming into a situation like that prepared to engage and neutralize a suspect.
Okay. Yeah, there's so much to consider. I mean, for me, I feel like I'm under the radar enough to where I'm good, but like your mind does go to that, like, well, what would I do? I mean, especially with like
Yeah.
two little ones, like, would I have to leave them in I mean, what does a parent have to do in those situations? If
Yeah.
the police with guns drawn or banging on your door, do you just have to then leave your children in the home, and especially if they're littles, and confront the situation? Do you tell them right away when they're telling you to put your hands up? Like, how do you handle that?
Well, it's hard. There's no win in this situation, because again, both parties, the family you're talking about, even yourself, would be a victim, and even the police officers are a victim. This crime, this is not a victimless crime, and people need to know that.
Yeah.
So, you don't know if it's a certain deal, and the police officers don't know if it's a good call or a bogus call. They have no idea. Their job is to save lives and protect lives, including ourselves and our children. So the best thing to do, and the police officers know, people need to know this, the police officers know that homeowners have guns. So they are prepared for that. They understand they have guns, and certainly their job as police officers to clearly identify themselves, clearly tell them why they're here, to ask if everything's okay. They need to do it in a very aggressive way, very quick way, to ascertain that this is real or not. And they would not be just out in the open. They would be behind cover as the most part. So it wouldn't be like them standing there pointing a gun through the door at somebody, just openly waiting on somebody else to open the door, point a gun at them. It's a little bit different than that when you're talking about tactical response. But as a homeowner, as a mom, as a father, you need to go open the door. I would suggest yelling out the door first before you open it. Who is it? Could you please identify yourself? And then maybe go to the curtain and say, please identify yourself with a light so I can see who you are. That's would be the proper way to do it. And then open the door and say everything's okay.
Okay. I mean, this is great advice. And the theme but that we always end up talking about, Dr. Sherwood, is that element of being proactive and thinking things ahead
Mhm.
of time and thinking about what you can personally do. So,
Yeah.
so far we know that this doesn't just necessarily mean it's just for like super popular conservative hosts. I mean, if
Yeah.
they see that this is a good domestic terrorist mechanism, this could, I see, extend to school board members
Yep.
and council members, and we've already seen it happen to judges and Marjorie Taylor Greene in Congress. So I mean, it probably is a good idea at this point, since we see it happening as a act of terrorism, to, like
Yep.
you said, just kind of think through, like, how would I handle that situation? How can I prepare myself for that situation? And then also, I mean, if you feel like you are a big enough threat, maybe paying a visit to your local police or sheriff and just saying, hey, heads up, I don't know if you've seen in the news, but this is kind of a trend right now, and I just want you to meet me in person and maybe see if
Yeah.
I can be put on a list or something, like, if somebody tries to target me. I think those are all great steps of advice that you have kind of clued us in on. And that being said, this is your approach with what you do now. You're a doctor, you're a
Mhm.
naturopathic, and your advice has always been like, take control of your own health, because right now we're all anxious again. It's just like we have this like mentality of like, just with this situation, like, what can Cash or Dan do to save me, or instead of thinking like, what can I do to save myself? And we do that with
Amen.
the health as well. We're like, oh, Maha, RFK Jr. is going to personally save my health or my kids'
Mm.
health. But we can't think like that. I mean, these things are going to take time. I mean, some of these things that they're talking about won't be implemented until 2027. So the time is now to fix your own home and fix your own health. And so, I mean, obviously, you've been ahead of the curve on that, right?
Yeah, we have. And I really appreciate the point you just made. We should not be waiting on anyone from the government to solve the problem that we have in our personal responsibility or realm of ability to solve. I mean, health is my responsibility. Protection of my home is my responsibility. So in both of those things, the duality and the irony of that is really good. And so when you look at this whole process of health, Christy, I appreciate what you know Director Patel and Assistant Director Bongino and um, obviously uh, Director Kennedy are doing as well. They're doing a great job, but it's going to take a long time to make a dent in what has and what continues to happen within the safety of our communities and also the safety of our health. And it is incumbent upon us right now as humans to look ourselves in the mirror and say, you know what, I'm going to do this. And so I've always been about this for the last 20 years or better. Um, Eat well, sleep well, move well, and work on de-stressing well. Because you mentioned this, everybody's on edge a lot of times. That's one thing that we don't look at enough as the overt driver of ill health is this chronic cortisol, this chronic stress that can kill you. So we have to learn to detach from that. We have to learn to segment it out, compartmentalize it, how we deal with it, but find an escape from that.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned the stress because, yes, I think all of us are under chronic stress for a long time. And I think that our kids are also under chronic stress. And for one of my kids, my youngest boy, there's a certain degree of boys not being able to focus, of course, like especially as they're entering their teens. But for one of them, it's become an increasing problem. And I'm a crunchy mom that didn't ever want to, you know, use the ADH or ADD medicine, but I started looking at like natural ways we could approach maybe this challenge, as far as school goes. And so, in my reading so far, it sounds like a lot of people are deficient of magnesium, and that might be a key. And even has some stress reducing capabilities.
Magnesium, historically, Christy, is known as the great relaxer.
Hmm.
You're correct that the majority of people in the United States of America are severely deficient in magnesium. Additionally, know that most people are deficient in B vitamins. And to your point about ADD, ADHD, sometimes the phenomena of the inability to stay focused is driven by an inability to maintain certain neurotransmitter levels, such as dopamine and serotonin, which are produced with the requirement of B vitamins and magnesium. How about that circle of influence there? So we really need to take B vitamins. And so, I've been adamant about this again for a long time with children or anybody. We need our D's, our omegas, our B's, and our magnesium. And do that. And, to that end, I mean, this is not a shameless plug on me or anything else, but this is why we created Kingdom Essentials, because I wanted to make sure that every human being had the ability to have that in a packet form where you could take those on the road with you, on the go with you, and do those 2 packs a day. And anyone over 12 right now, that's what I recommend, because it has everything I just mentioned and more in it, which could help drive those neurotransmitters relax the brain, and help put a modulation effect on your adrenals.
And so can you mention what that is again?
Yeah, they're called Kingdom Essentials. It's a jug of packs of pills that we put together that has multivitamin, multi minerals, and magnesium is the third most prevalent mineral we have. And then it has omega-3 fatty acids and also vitamin D and some coenzyme Q10. And of course, here in my world, with our 25,000 odd people, all of them pretty much do that on a daily basis. And it's a no brainer. And people say, well, that's going to cost too much. No, no, it's under $3 a day. So I'm thinking for the safety of kids, for the safety of adults, for the health of our nation, I think we can all invest $3 a day.
Yeah, I believe that too. Now we know that there is a lot of food that is deficient in these, which is why you need to take the supplements. Is there any
Yeah.
evidence that like the crap food people are eating are actually depleting them of supplements? Not only like not giving them, but like depleting them as well?
Yes, there is. A matter of fact, I think most of our listeners have probably heard of the phenomenon called leaky gut or leaky gut syndrome or hyperpermeability membrane of the small intestine or intestinal barrier wall. Same phenomenon, but what happens is as you eat, as you mentioned, the crap food that has a bunch of inflammatory action in it, it destroys the gut microbiome or the gut bacteria. When it does, the whole ability of our body to digest, break down, and allow those nutrients to cross over into our bloodstream to be transported down to our cells to be used as energy, that whole system is completely impaired. And therefore, the food we're eating or the lack of food, this high calorie, low nutrient food, is actually creating an impairment of us to get nutrients in our system, even when
Wow.
we take them by supplementation. So you can't out supplement away a bad diet. I see a lot of people, selling things that say take this for this, but if you don't fix the diet or the intake of that, you're not going to get nutrient assimilation anyway. And that's the key point. The second tagline behind that is a lot of medications we take have nutrient pull out as effects. That's what they do. For example, people know that statin drugs pull out coenzyme Q10, which can create muscle pain and lack of energy. We know that some blood pressure medications can pull out B vitamins and magnesium. So every nutrient we have is depleted if we don't have good gut function. And then we take a bunch of medications on top of that, we get more nutrient depletion.
So it sounds like the number one thing obviously is the diet, but the second up you would recommend as far as the products that you have freely available for folks um, is those main ones, the magnesium, the B that you all have together in a packet that you said is like less than $3 a day. That would be like your number one recommendation for people to make sure that they get on board.
Yes, I mean it's easy to do, and we created that probably a year ago for this very purpose because I wanted to take the guesswork out, and I didn't want to have people have to have a whole bunch of bottles around. I know people have kids; they're running around. The activity level, the stimulus or stress level is at an all time high now. We're running, doing whatever. So I wanted to have that for people out there, and then we also created that Kingdom Fuel because that was a meal on the go, and it was meant to solve problems. And like you mentioned earlier, a few moments ago, I'm all about taking charge of the stuff. I mean, we know there's problems out there, and we can talk about that all day long. But it's good to recognize problems, but don't let problems be the controller of the narrative. Instead, we need to let the solutions become the controller of the narrative. And when that happens, people begin to get healthy again, physically, emotionally, spiritually, Christy. And I think that's where people can be. I'm all about possibilities. We have a possibility now and an opportunity now like we've never had before. Conversations we're having on the networks we're on and the platform you have is a wonderful opportunity for people to put it into practice and be solution oriented today.
Yeah. So important, like you said. I mean, there's all those elements, physically, address the spiritual, address the emotional, so you're firing on all cylinders and able to approach whatever comes our way. But yeah, I mean, to summarize it really, all of these issues come back to personal responsibility, and can't stress that enough. But lucky for you, I love the Sherwoods. They're so generous and smart, and really ready and willing to come alongside you. I really encourage you to check out their website. Do it now. You can go to sherwood.tv/KL. You can use promo code KL on the products for a discount. But really, I want to encourage people to just check out your website before even worrying about buying anything. You have such a wealth of information on there, and ways to understand how to approach this, how best to approach this. And so obviously it's a passion project between you and your wife. And so it's really neat that you've really dove into all this and helped so many people that I know personally. So yeah, I encourage people to check out sherwood.tv/KL and learn, and then maybe figure out how you can support the Sherwoods in this show. So Dr. Sherwood, thank you so much. What a great conversation. And I think it really gives new perspective to all of these issues.
Well, you're welcome. I appreciate you asking me about the two specific issues, and hopefully gives people some food for thought and actual action steps.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Thank you, Dr. Sherwood.
You're welcome.
All right. Like I said, sherwood.tv/KL. And, you said food for thought. Speaking of, there is some good food snack items on sherwood.tv, like the Kingdom Fuel is the protein shake. There's Kingdom Candy, which is like protein bars. All appreciated as a really busy mom that does not have time to eat or drink half the time. So I need something I can grab really quickly. Or for the kids' sake, cereals are the ticking time bomb, worst thing that you can give your kids. Lucky for you, Sherwood.tv also has cereal, but good, healthy cereal, protein cereal that you can give your kids. All right, so check them out, support the show, go to sherwood.tv/KL. And we're going to take another quick break. Another thing you can stock up on is preparedness of meat. You want to trust the meat that you have. You want to make sure that it doesn't have any vaccines in it, for goodness sake, and get it well. You can get it at a good price, so you can get some shelf stable meat as well. Watch this. Let them eat bugs, they say, or lab grown meat, or worse. No, we want our real beef, and we need to get free from the rising costs, because the prices are skyrocketing. So you need to go to klbeef.com, stock up on all American beef from ranches in Texas, from Prepper All Naturals. We don't want the mystery meat. This meat is no mRNA jabs ever. It's freeze-dried, stored in Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers for maximum shelf life. We're talking 10 plus years without refrigeration. We're not talking jerky. We're talking about something you can just soak in water for 15 minutes, ready to eat. And these are premium cuts, New York strip, tenderloin, sirloin, chuck. Just use promo code KLB15 for 15% off your order.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and I'm excited to announce my new product, My Coffee. I get products all the time from entrepreneurs for my new platform, mystore.com. And when I tried My Coffee for the first time, I was blown away. It is the best coffee I've ever had in my life. I spent the last 4 months doing my due diligence, and this family-owned business micromanages every step from the fields to the cup to ensure the best quality coffee you're ever going to have. It starts with the beans that are grown in Honduras. Honduras's volcanic soil and humid climate make the perfect growing conditions for coffee plants, which produce the best beans ever. Then each batch is tested for its aroma, taste, and other aspects to meet the highest standards in the coffee industry. And after that, it goes into production, which is all done right here in the USA. It's like you're getting that small batch specialty coffee, but delivered right to your front door. So go to mystore.com or call the number on your screen. Use the promo code and you'll get your very own My Coffee for 25% off. You guys all know that I've traveled the country for the past year and a half. I've stayed in hundreds of hotels. I've tried every coffee out there. Well, some of the coffees have that terrible aftertaste, some that leave me jittery, or I get an upset stomach. Well, My Coffee is different. It's the richest, smoothest, best coffee I've ever had. My Coffee comes in a variety of flavors. You get them ground or whole bean, plus it's certified organic and non-GMO. I guarantee it'll be the best coffee you've ever had. So go to mystore.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code and you'll get my coffee for 25% off. And I'm going to give you deep discounts on all my store products. That's mystore.com. It's my new platform for USA entrepreneurs. Please order now.
Well, this is TV, folks. Sometimes things don't. Well, it's actually not TV if you're watching on Twitter or Rumble or whatever. But in this TV world or media sphere, sometimes things don't work out exactly as you had planned them to. So, really wanted to share Alpha Warrior's story. You should check him out on X because he is like an OG person as far as it comes to having been swatted and his life turned upside down. And now it's turned into this crazy it thing for the left to do to folks. But we're going to try and get him back on as soon as we can. Just had some hiccups with that as things go sometimes. But I did want to talk with Alpha Warrior and in general about this JFK release. So, here was another situation where we got pumped up about the Epstein files were going to be released, and then it was binders and conservative people like all out in front of the White House smiling about the release of sexual predators and victims that were never given justice. It was all kind of strange, and it was a flop. So many of us were kind of going into like, yeah, right, they're not even going to release all of the JFK files. Even after they've released all the JFK files, forever the skeptic, I'm like, really? Is that everything? And so, are you on the side of like, wow, this was a good move, like we're putting the pieces together, or are you more on the side of this was kind of a flop? I'm kind of on the latter side, but there is still a lot to go through. I mean, maybe it's not like some momentous thing for us because a lot of the things that have been dropped are things that many of us have known for a long time now. It's not like, what, the CIA was involved? What, Mossad was involved possibly? We already knew this kind of stuff, right? So it's like for us, and maybe that's the thing, is we don't have the perspective of somebody that's completely been in the dark and happens to be reading through these things and is like discovering these things for the first time. I'm not sure. But Anna Paulina Luna, she was saying early before these files dropped that she believed that there was 3 shooters. And I don't know if the files necessarily support that just yet, but there has been some other interesting things that she's been able to point out, and she was just recently on Benny's show. So take a look at what she had to say about the JFK file drop.
So this is something that I found particularly fascinating with these documents, that there is a predictive programming inside of multiple documents. Oswald will be killed in custody, that Oswald will do the killing, that we will get JFK one way or another, that there are various entities, whether it's the state of Israel or whether it's Cuba or whether it's Russia, that is interested in the killing of JFK. And that there seems to be, if anything, like a environment of allowance, perhaps, with the CIA for this to happen. And I'm wondering, one, if your takeaway is that, meaning there isn't a smoking gun. The document doesn't say, actually, CIA agent 1236571, he's the one who pulled the trigger. But what you're seeing here is a mosaic that's created of, here are all the enemies of JFK. We know that their intentions are to hurt JFK, and we're going to send them traveling at a very slow speed right through downtown, skyscrapers, in the back of an open-air limousine.
Well, also, if I could just point out, you actually have the document up right now that admits that also Dr. King is going to be killed as well. And so what I'm finding is it's a confirmation of, I think, many people's concerns, and that at the time, the intelligence agencies were operating in the shadows, and as you saw, was a rogue element and entity. When I made that first omission, Benny, saying that I believe that there were multiple shooters, I actually got calls from people. They're like, where are you finding this, this evidence? You haven't seen the documents yet. I said, I'm going based on witness testimony of, I'm not just talking like 1 or 2 or 3 witnesses here. We're talking upwards of 15 plus witnesses, not to mention that the Warren Commission, which was initially set up by Congress to investigate the assassination of JFK, knowingly omitted information that would have been considered evidence, right? So I'm not a criminal investigator. However, I can put 2 and 2 together. And what I can tell you is when you have a congressional committee omitting failing to admit evidence, and then in addition creating a narrative, which we know now with modern day technology and also witness testimony that, again, the magic bullet theory was faulty. I mean, the fact is that we have basically everything that we could have ever imagined, wanted, and more. We are going to be able to answer those questions. But again, Benny, I mean, looking back at what happened, I did also find in one of the documents yesterday, as I was going through this with the American people, and you saw in real time all of these bombshells are coming out on X of all places, is that you actually also saw that allegedly JFK had asked at the time the leader of Russia for information on rogue CIA agents. And so isn't that interesting that he was inquiring on this, and then obviously he ends up assassinated? So look, we have a lot to go through. Again, there's thousands upon thousands of documents, but we are going after 20 key specific documents that we feel, in working with our team and then also working with experts who've been studying the JFK assassination for decades, can provide a better picture and context to the American people. I hope that the hearing that we have on the 2nd will at least help reset the historical narrative on John F. Kennedy with the facts, and then let the American people decide.
So bringing it back to the trans violence that we were talking about earlier, we were showing you person after person that had done this domestic terrorism on the Teslas, and they all seem to have in common that they were trans. And it's like, you think about the population of the United States, although it's been growing, but the population of the United States that would identify as trans has got to be so small. I mean, certainly, I believe last I read it was still less than 2%. So what are the chances that there would be so many people that identify as trans that would be committing these violent acts? Well, I was just on X, and it's funny, Elon Musk is asking pretty much the same thing. He's saying, what are the statistics on trans violence? The probability of a trans person being violent appears to be vastly higher than non-trans. Hormone injections cause extreme emotional volatility. That is simply a fact. Because again, about 3 out of the 4 people who have been arrested for vandalizing Teslas are transgender or non-binary. And he also, I guess, Hango Gurki posted this chart, rates of sexual offending. For sexual violence, the data is off the charts for the trans community. And Elon Musk put, wow, trans violence is extremely far above normal levels. So, I mean, we know that we know that evil is all about projecting the opposite of what is true. And so we've had to hear for years that trans are afraid of violence, and they're just innocent people that want to live their life. And if that were the case, if they would just do whatever they want to do and leave everybody alone about it, that'd be one thing. But instead, it's shoved in the face, it's shoved in kids' faces, it's demanded to be in story hours. It's everything's about pronouns. I mean, have you seen that one guy on social media who just goes out to eat, just waiting to have someone misgender him so that he can have a tirade? I mean, that's your existence. You just go out to eat and talk to the camera and wait for your waitress to call you dude so that you can go on this tirade about how you're not a dude. I mean, that's not just living your own life, minding your own business, okay? But it gets worse than that. Not only do they want you to demand you live in their reality, but on top of it, they get so angry and rageful when you don't, or you don't believe any one thing that they do, that there's all of these very violent things going on. Just the spotlight is on it now because of the whole Tesla domestic terror attacks. But it's just another one of those times that you think, well, maybe this will wake some folks up. I don't know. But speaking of predators, so, we've seen a lot of trans, a lot of non-binaries in schools. And I am one of those parents that was at those school board meetings, demanding that pornography get out of the school. They get those literal pornographic books, um, out of the school libraries, and quit talking about sexuality, period, with the kids. Like, no, there's no place for that. There's no reason for that. But at the same time, over the years, we've seen more and more, not just non-binary, not just trans, not just male teachers and coaches, but I would argue we've seen even more female predators over these most recent years than we've seen male teacher or coach predators. It blows my mind. And it's just like, it seems like it's like every day you see another young female teacher that has preyed upon young boys. And we can never have this topic taken seriously enough, because you have the stupid lame men in the comments being like, oh, well, that's impossible. You can't rape a young boy. Like, uh, just downplaying it, or like saying like, oh, I wish she'd been my teacher. Like, no, that is not how we respond to this. When you talk to child psychologists, like I have, when I was covering the pornography in schools and those books in the schools and these topics in these schools, when you talk to a child psychologist, before brains are fully developed, before they're ready for it, extremely sexual content, nature, and certainly acts that are pushed upon them is a trauma response. Even if even if the young boy thinks it feels good or whatever, or thinks he wants it's still a traumatic event. It's an older person taking advantage of a younger person. And so the most shocking I've seen in a while is this story out of Indiana. Unbelievable. Watch this.
New tonight, more teenage students in Morgan County are now coming forward, and they're accusing a former teacher of sexual misconduct with a minor. Ashton Hackman is in Morgan County to explain why the prosecutors are now looking to bring even more charges against this woman.
31-year-old Brittany Fortenberry has been held here at the Morgan County Jail since her arrest last month on charges of sexual misconduct with a minor. Since then, 5 new victims have come forward with additional allegations. Prosecutors have asked to file up to 24 additional criminal charges against her, including 10 counts of child molesting, sexual misconduct with a minor, and 13 other charges for disseminating material harmful to minors and contributing to the delinquency of a minor. Court documents say all of the teens reported Fortenberry would send them nude and explicit photos and videos on Snapchat and force them to have group sex at her Martinsville home. A child victim advocate says it's important for parents to feel comfortable having difficult conversations with their children.
And what we just encourage is that parents kind of ask that open-ended question, and they give their children a chance to speak, and then they praise their courage at that time rather than asking them questions about what they did or why they didn't tell. The last thing that we want is a child to feel blame or shame as a result of making a disclosure.
We reached out to the Morgan County Prosecutor's Office to see when these formal charges will be filed. We have not yet heard back. In Morgan County, Ashton Hackman, 13 News.
Well, at least they were encouraging the parents to open up that line of communication if they haven't already. I mean, usually they're advocating for someone, a school counselor or something like that. No, it's important to have conversations, and really it can just start with making sure that you're talking to your kids. I will admit that I am guilty of this. Like, there has been times in the craziness, busyness of my life that I haven't made enough effort to just have casual conversations, let alone these like deep ones. And so I think it's really important to just start with making sure you're nurturing a good relationship with your kids, constantly talking about that, about just everyday stuff, having fun with your kids, that way when there are some certain things that come up, they can feel more comfortable about tough subjects, right? And I mean, obviously, if you're talking to them about God and Jesus and the Bible, I know that many of you are followers of Christ, as myself, and then there will be more conviction to talk about things of that nature. But I mean, I posed the question, and it looks like it got hidden by by X, because it's like not getting any interaction right now. But I posed the question. I was like, we have an epidemic of women predators. What is causing this? Like, how all of a sudden is there just an epidemic of all of these women that are preying upon young boys? Now, um, we all remember, the major case from years ago of the teacher that ended up actually marrying her student, and it's wild. But that was like an anomaly. That was like a whoa, this story is so wild. And now it's like everywhere. It's like literally every other day I'm seeing young, pretty, you know, 20, 30 something, um, taking advantage of like a 11, 12, 13. I mean, like that story. It's insane. And so, I mean, I would argue there's a few different things at play here. I believe it's an epidemic of insecurity that women are feeling more and more insecure. They're not connected to their husbands because many times it's a woman with a husband, um, and and so this becomes a vulnerability with like if a young boy is looking them at them as like a queen, then then they can fall victim to it with insecurity. But more than that, we have a pornography epidemic that leads now. That used to be like something that we thought of like men having a problem with. Well, now women have been sucked in. Sometimes women are sucked into it by their own husbands. And so it's just perverts, pornography perverts everything. And it may start as like, oh, like let's spice up our marriage or something, and then it gets more and more disgusting because that is what pornography is. It's a perversion of what is supposed to be a beautiful thing for procreation, but it's been made dirty and it's been perverted, and women are falling a victim to getting addicted to pornography now as well. And once you pervert what it's supposed to look like, then it gets worse and worse and worse, and so now it's becoming apparently women's fantasies to lure in young boys. I mean, this we do need to start asking ourselves what the root problems are to these things. And then we talked a lot about today about personal responsibility. And so here's something else that you need to take personal responsibility for. If you're a mother, don't think that women are safe. And I say that humbly as a mother that has looked at has kind of brushed off and been like, "Oh, well, it's a young girl or it's a woman, so like I don't have to worry like as much as I would if I was thinking about, some man wanted to take my young kid for like an ice cream or something. I mean, that would be naturally like no, I don't know him well enough. But like if it's like a woman, like, oh, it's fine. I'm sure it's probably fine. But like this is now obviously a huge rude wake up call that we have to check our own selves and our own predispositions of what we think is safe. Like, no, you can't even allow somebody, some friendly person that maybe you just became friends with, you can't even allow them to go grab ice cream with your kid because this is the world we're living in now. It gets a false sense of security. Now we do need to start looking at women as predators too, if you haven't already. I don't have a problem admitting that I um, have had a false sense of security about other women, um, because I know I'm not the only one like that has had that. But now I'm like eyes wide open. This is the sick world we're living in. So I caution others to recognize that this is the stage that we're in right now. That being said, let's share the verse of the day, and that is I picked this one because frankly I'm nursing right now. And so this it gives like so much more meaning. I know how much my baby needs my milk. And so this from First Peter 2:2 says, like newborn babies crave pure spiritual milk, so that by it you may grow up in your salvation. And this is a tough season. My baby just turned 3 months. I've been through, the hard newborn phase of like cluster feeding and all of that. But like, they scream in those early stages. They scream like they need the milk. And like that is how we need to approach our spiritual milk now more than ever with this crazy world we're living in. We need our spiritual milk to survive and to have the discernment so that we can make those those hard decisions about who we can and cannot trust, and how best to raise our children, and how best to have those difficult conversations with kids, and how best to react if, police come knocking on your door and SWAT you, like we need to have the spiritual armor of God ready and rearing to go. All right. Just want to remind you, please support the show by going to mypillow.com/KL. You can go to mypillow.com/KL. So many different products to choose from. Use promo code KL to get discounts, the biggest discounts. And, what you should do is find 2 or 3 things, adding up to about $75 with the discount, and then you get your shipping for free. So, maybe get some slippers and some towels, or get some sheets and um uh, uh more towels. I don't know. No, there's a dog bed. You get a dog bed and some sheets. There's so many different options, but maybe pick 2 or 3 things and use promo code KL. If it's around $75, you get your shipping for free on top of it, another discount. All right. Well, thanks for watching, and don't forget to share and ask others to get free with Christy Lee on Lindell TV.